Coming up, we'll highlight a number of improvements to information protection capabilities in Microsoft 365 to help you go from assessing your compliance posture against GDPR to determining and implementing the latest information protection capabilities to help you with compliance, including what Microsoft delivers as a cloud service provider and the specific controls that you need to implement, identifying and protecting personal and sensitive data wherever it resides, either on-premises, in the Microsoft Cloud, or other SaaS applications, classifying and protecting file types, even non-Microsoft file types, across locations, services, device platforms, and more. So I'm joined today by Gagan Gulati from the Information Protection Engineering team. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So we recently did a show explaining GDPR, which really affects organizations in the European Union, or any organization that really deals with customers or employees in the EU.
That's right. It's really a requirement for organizations to make sure that they're fully accountable for the personal information that they hold for their employees and customers in the European Union. Now, if your organization collects personal data on EU residents, this regulation applies to you. And it's broader than private information such as age, race, government ID numbers, or social security numbers. It could also be IP addresses or mailing addresses.
Right, and one important thing to point out is that the deadline is May 25th, 2018. Now, last time we walked through all the available tools and guidance, but what has the team been focused on lately to help?
So we've delivered several new features in Microsoft 365 to help with compliance and European Union's GDPR specifically. And while Microsoft 365 is a cloud service, it can help IT get a handle on hybrid environments too. That can include a wide range of services, apps, and device types as well. A key area for focus for us is how we make it easier for you to assess your compliance posture with GDPR and build an implementation plan to protect your information. So the first thing I want to show you is the Compliance Manager, which you can start using today, and it will include assessments across other Microsoft services as well. As you can see here, the Compliance Manager applies to a number of standards and regulations. We see GDPR and ISO 27001. The Compliance Manager is a powerful way to track and manage your data protection and compliance with a risk-based score based on the actions you have taken. So here, I will click into GDPR. Here you can see a list of all the services covered. We will be adding more services over time. As you see here, your assessment is based on two perspectives. The first is Microsoft Managed Controls in relation to GDPR. These are the controls that Microsoft leverages as a service provider. We provide you in-depth details on how Microsoft has implemented these controls and how third-party auditors have tested the controls. We even give you an update on the status of specific controls that we are in the process of implementing.
So that's really great. You're able to quickly see what Microsoft delivers as a cloud service provider in this case.
Yes. And the second view that we give you is of the specific controls that you need to implement, what we call customer managed controls, which you are responsible for managing. In this model, there are a number of controls that we have mapped to GDPR articles for you to implement. Here, I'm going to walk you through these controls. You will see the actions that you need to take to implement the controls, as well as the space to document implementation details and test plans. Remember, these are editable fields. You can even upload supporting documents that provide evidence for control implementation and effectiveness. And your compliance team can review and update test status for each article. And as you implement these controls, we help you track your progress. And once your team has tested all the articles you're responsible for, you can export a report to Excel that provides all the details for controls you are managing and what Microsoft manages. At the end of the day, the core stipulation is the protection of personal information. So now let me get back to the article. And now, as a compliance officer, I can assign this article to my IT admin. In this case, you, Jeremy. And I'm going to ask you to look into it. So I will click Assign and assign this to you.
So now here as the IT admin, I see that an email's arrived and I click View Action. And it's going to take me directly to what's been assigned to me then. When I click on that, I go right to the Customer Actions in the Compliance Manager. Now when I click Read More in this section, it actually drills down to specific capabilities with links to all these great resources in order to enable this, this article. So here, the overall guidance around getting me to a state where sensitive docs are basically protected and discovered and classified, that's all right here.
Yes, and as you can see, we have a comprehensive set of solutions as part of Microsoft 365. and we highlight the specific tools and links to guidance that'll help you with this article, all from one place. And one of the key technologies that you use in this case is Azure Information Protection within Microsoft 365, which is the technology that my team at Microsoft works on.
So this is going to be really good then. So let me check that out. In this case, I'm going to see a link here for Azure Information Protection. When I click that, it's actually taken me straight into Docs. So I can see all the guidance here to get that set up, read about it, and get it implemented.
That's right. Ultimately, we want to go from having documents where we are not aware of the sensitivity of their content, like the document we have here. In this document, you can see it's a regular document with no sensitivity applied to this document, to where we have identified, classified, labeled, and applied protection to the files we really need to protect. So in this case, it's the same document. You can see that it has the sensitivity of confidential. You can see a watermark has been applied across the same document. Now, Azure Information Protection does all of this in a consistent, automated way. So here, I'm in the Security and Compliance Center in the admin portal. This gives a consistent configuration experience for the classification of your content and can be applied across all of your workloads. So we'll start by creating a set of standard labels. We need the labels in place before we can start classifying our files. So as you can see here, I've already created a bunch of these labels. I'm going to set up a new one. We will call it Confidential GDPR. So I will click on Create a Label. I would type in the name. We will skip the description in this case and add the tooltip as well. So I'm going to click Next. Here, I can apply two types of policies, for protection and for retention. I will turn on protection in this case. You would see that I have quite a few options available to me. One of them is block users from sending emails outside the organization. There's another option called send incident reports in emails in case somebody sends these confidential emails outside the organization. But in our case, we are going to click on advanced protection, which basically includes encryption.
So you basically have the options here then to kind of monitor what's going on or take and start enforcing these policies.
Correct. And here we get to apply advanced options. I'm going to click on, and you can see that I have quite a few advanced options available to me. Adding watermarks, add a header, add a footer, and apply label to subject. I'm going to choose applying a watermark. I will click on customize the text. I added confidential GDPR, and this watermark is now going to apply diagonally across all the pages of the document for which this label is applied.
Just like we saw earlier.
That is right. So I'll click Save, and then I'll click Next. And this is where it gets really interesting. To enable automated classification of documents, we give you the ability to apply labels automatically to new documents as they are created or to existing documents. Here is an example of a rule that I will now set. So I will click on Next, and I would click on adding a new condition. Now remember, in this case, we will trigger classification when we detect passport or personal ID numbers. We support up to 80 sensitive information types to help you protect data for EU residents, or you can customize and create your own sensitive information type. So now I'll click on Create, and here I'm going to add the PII information for all French nationals. As you can see, I got 4 sensitive information types for French nationals, including driving license numbers, national ID cards, passport numbers, and social security numbers. So I'm going to click on Add, and done.
And this is really powerful here because this is going to actually allow you to scan all the files that are already pre-existing in your entire suite of files and data. Now, another thing to note here is that we're going to be building out a GDPR template for sensitive information types, but you don't need to wait to get started.
Absolutely. Now, I will publish this label by clicking Next and clicking Create. And once I have published this label, it's enabled across all Microsoft and non-Microsoft services that support our information protection platform.
Right, so I know a lot of people probably watching this are thinking, I've been collecting lots of data and files over the years and sitting in file shares or SharePoint. Can I help find those types of files and protect those using your tools?
We have just introduced a new capability called the AIP scanner, which helps you to protect your data at rest on your file servers or SharePoint on premises. So here I have a file in front of me. It contains sensitive data in the form of passport numbers, and we want to absolutely protect it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close the file, and now we will run the AIP scanner. You can see that I have already typed the command start service AIP scanner.
And pay attention to those PDF files because I think the icons are going to change once you run the scanner.
Definitely. So I'm going to click enter. And as you said, behind the scenes, the AIP scanner is running, and it's going to protect all of these files that contain the sensitive data. As you rightly pointed out, the PDF file icon has now changed, and you'll see a lock on these files. So basically what's happening behind the scenes is that the documents are getting automatically classified and protected. So now I'm going to open this file. And as I open this file, you will see that this file has now been classified as confidential GDPR data, and it has also been protected. So I'll click on View Permissions, and you will see that this file is now protected to all the people in my organization.
So that's pretty amazing here. In this case, it's picked up the policy that you set earlier, and it's retrospectively applying and automatically applying all the protection as it scans the content in your file server in this case.
And notice that too, that this scanner will also detect many different file types. There are around 38 to 40 file types supported by AIP. And also, after you run the scanner, you also get a full report of the sensitive content discovered, as you can see in this Excel report. We have protected a bunch of files in that folder. A lot of different labels have been applied. Specifically for the resume that we saw, the confidential label of confidential GDPR got applied. And the condition name was French PII data.
Now, so that was on premises and kind of scanning the files that you've already collected over the years. But now as we're seeing file sharing getting more and more ubiquitous, a lot of people are storing their content in the cloud across multiple services. Can AIP protect those files that extend beyond things like Microsoft Services and Microsoft 365?
Yes, Microsoft has its own CASB called the Microsoft Cloud App Security. This will help you to discover all the cloud apps that your users may be using, and it's integrated with information protection to help the protection of your sensitive data. So here I have a file that we don't know what the sensitivity of the file is. I am now going to upload this file to Box. Now, as soon as I do that, notice that the file version has changed. That's because behind the scenes, Microsoft Cloud App Security acts as an intermediary. It first scans a copy of the file, then classifies it, labels it, and protects it based on the rule that we set up earlier. And it then uploads a new version of this same file to Box. So Jeremy, why don't you try to download this file?
All right, so I'm going to open this here on my Mac, and you can see that I've got the file here as version 2. It's just been updated by Guggen. We'll go ahead and click on the more options here in Box, download the file, and we can see it's downloaded. Now if I go ahead and look at the Word document downloads, there it is. I'm going to go ahead and open that. Here we can already see that it's been marked confidential GDPR. I can read this straight from my Mac. The encryption's been enabled, and I can see all the protections if I click on View Protections, and all the stuff that we just saw on your Windows PC has been applied on my Mac. So it means that only employees of my company in this case can actually open it.
Yes. So now if the Box library is unintentionally shared externally, those external users will not be able to access this file.
Very cool. So we've seen how then information protection on local file servers works, also in the cloud, even non-Microsoft cloud services, and even across different device platforms.
And that's not all. All of this functionality is now available through our Information Protection SDK, which allows you to take advantage of our consistent labeling and protection capabilities across all your apps. For example, we're working with Adobe now to have the same consistent labeling and protection of PDFs in Adobe Reader as well. So now I'm going to go back to my screen, and you will see that I am in Adobe Reader. I have a confidential PDF file available to me. I'm going to double click on this. And as I click on this file and I click the lock icon, you will see that this file in Adobe is actually protected with Microsoft Azure Information Protection.
Now, these are just a few examples how you can go from assessing compliance posture against GDPR requirements to determining and implementing the latest information protection capabilities to help you with compliance. Now, do you have any other guidance for people that are watching at home today about working through their GDPR requirements?
Yes, don't wait. Get started today. We have a lot of tools, framework, and guidance to help you. And you'll see us continuously adding more capabilities over the coming months. In addition to what I've shown you today, we recommend that you also take a quick GDPR assessment at the link shown. Then, as I showed you, by implementing the recommendations from Compliance Manager, you can take your compliance posture to the next level, which you can assess here.
Right, and of course, this is a topic that we're going to be following very closely on Microsoft Mechanics to help get you ready for GDPR and its deadline and beyond. So subscribe to Microsoft Mechanics on YouTube to keep up with the latest shows. That's about all the time we have for today's show. We'll see you next time.